G'day guys, welcome back. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching the Wildkard Rugby Show. Like, comment, and subscribe. But yes, if I look a little bit tired, it's because I've been so busy hustling for the dollar. But yes, it is what it is. It's life. And let's talk about some rugby news whilst we are here. So yeah, big news came out yesterday. The man that everybody was suspecting to become the next Wallabies head coach, that is not Stuart Lancaster. And so yes, Les Kiss has been handed the keys to the Wallabies going into next year. So Joe Schmidt has decided to extend his coaching till the end of the spring tour in November. It's a November Test series, and then Les Kiss will take over next year. Fresh staff with the Wallabies. So yeah, there's gonna be a transition period between the two coaches. Joe Schmidt initially only wanted to end by the end of the Lions tour, and then it was extended to the end of the Rugby Championship, and now he's gonna carry it all the way out to the end. I think Les Kiss will be involved at the end of the season to get a bit of transition, but yeah, he will be officially in charge till next year. So yeah, that is good news for the Wallabies. I think Les Kiss has been a tremendous coach for the Reds, has really taken the Reds from players just milking penalties, lost in the world of not knowing how to win in rugby games, with so much talent on the line, and has really brewed those talents into some world-class players and some really extraordinary men, characters as well over the last couple of seasons. So that's something I think is really important as a rugby player, not just being athletic, but having like that, mental toughness as well, mental and character as well. And then I think he's done a lot of work behind the scenes to improve a lot of the Reds players, especially. And so yeah, I'd like to see that carried on to the Wallabies, and I think that is like a huge step forward for the Wallabies team if he can, get some of those spoiled attitude out of the players. Not, to just get them, not really, like the players don't really have a spoiled attitude, but to just get the player to toughen up a little bit mentally. I think that'll help a lot for the Wallabies team. With that being said, let's move on to South Africa. So yeah, apparently the contract for the South African team is to be in the URC needs to be renewed every 4 years, and they're coming up for due. And some of the coaches are a little bit complaining, like this is kind of just for show. There's no other teams that will be qualified to be accepted into the URC, but they got to go through this process to make it look like everybody has a chance, but in reality they don't. And yeah, just a bit of some of the coaches are talking about this just being extra admin work that is making things a little bit inconsistent when it comes to sponsorships and stuff. We go out, approach a sponsor for a long-term deal, and they kind of just like, you might get kicked out of URC after 4 years. It just makes things a little bit more difficult to convince people. And but yeah, overall, this is just this, the teams, the core franchises, the Lions, the Bulls, the Sharks, Stormers are pretty much been locked in, but they have to go through the process of reapplying. Speaking of reapplying, Deon Fourie has re-signed with the Stormers despite getting a bit of injury last week, and everybody thought he might be done. But he will be extending the legendary career one more year at least with the Stormers. And yeah, he's gonna recover from his injury, and he's gonna have an ACL injury come back, and will play again next year for the Stormers. Will next year be the last year for Deon Fourie? I don't know, but he's an absolute legend of rugby, and I would like to see him play as long as he possibly can. Next up, Manie Libbok has given a bit of a sabbatical from South Africa, and there was some talks that he might go to France, but he's going to end up going to Japan for some easy money, and he's going to be going to the Hanazono Liners. Now, last week, I would just like to clarify, there was a report that Japan Rugby has a blood, selection policy that's been introduced. I didn't really go through the news correctly, and I think there was a lot of misunderstanding based on the comments I've read. So basically, it's not a ban on people who aren't Japanese. There's a limit of how many players are allowed that are not Japanese players. There's nothing controversial about that. They've reduced the limit, so the number of players, the foreign players each team is allowed to have has been reduced. But the controversial part that led to the article from Rugby Pass, right? Apparently, this is terrible. Is that is the fact that some of the players who actually has a Japanese passport, like Dylan Riley, despite having a Japanese passport, which legally makes them Japanese, right, are not considered Japanese because they don't have blood relations to a Japanese person. That's the controversial part. But it's there's a limit as well. So if they play 30 test caps, they will be also considered Japanese blood. So it's not that controversial, but it is technically, like legally speaking, once you have the passport, you should be given the full right of a Japanese citizen. And this kind of discriminates that a little bit with a 30 test requirement. But it's not crazy, it's not like as crazy as, only allowing certain race of people exclusively playing for a team. So it's not quite as bad as that in my opinion. But Rugby Pass made it sound a lot worse than it actually is. Now, the Lions Tour is coming up. The referees for the Lions Tour, the 3 big tests has been announced. The trio who will be given the pleasure and privilege to ruin everybody's lives have been announced. So Ben O'Keefe, a little bit concerning. His performances recently in Super Rugby has not been that great, but he's given the Lions test, the first Lion test. Andrea Piatti, the Italian guy, will be getting the second one, and Nika Ashumi-Kelly is going to be the third one. I'm pretty sure Amashu Kelly is going to be the third test referee from Georgia. So yeah, one Italian, one Georgian. Never happened before in the Lions Tour. And Ben O'Keefe had a Lions Tour outings like in 2000 and like a decade ago or something, like 1.5 decade ago or something. A long time ago, he's had one before. So yeah, this will be interesting to see how the new guy's gonna handle the Lions Tour. A lot of politicking, but I think the fact that neither of these referees are, in the Lions Tour or in the receiving end of the Lions Tour, like they're not from the core, Six Nation, not Six Nations, they're not from the core, British and Irish referee, and nor are they from the, the South African, the New Zealand, Australian side. So maybe we'll get a neutral referee, like a more, I guess, maybe there's less controversy. I feel. It is, Lions Tour. It is more than just the battle of the rugby. It's a battle of politics as well. So I think that this is actually an interesting dilemma, an interesting dynamic to the game, because sometimes people say, oh, the referees are Southern Hemisphere referee. They lean towards the Northern teams and there's all sorts of stuff, right? We've seen that before. So it'll be interesting to see that. The TMOs for them will be Richard Kelly from New Zealand, Eric Gauzen from France for the second game, and then Marius Jonker gets the third test. Oh boy, how many like Lions tests has Marius Jonker's been in as a TMO now? Like what, 4? 3? At least 3. He's been in 2 in the previous Lions Tour, and now he's again getting the TMO job. The referees are also announced for the July test as well, but who cares? Let's move on. So speaking of Lions Tour, a couple of big names currently with a bit of an injury cloud ahead of them. So Kinghorn, Blair Kinghorn, the draft man from Scotland, had a bit of an injury on the weekend. So it's not too concerning, it looks like, but he's still, limped off the field with a knee problem during the game. We'll have to see if there's any more serious. And then another one is the Marcus Smith, my cousin. Someone I really wanted to see play in the Lions Tour, also suffered a potential injury on the weekend, an ankle injury. So hopefully he's going to be okay. I mean, ankle injuries, if it was bad, it's still, a couple months, could still heal up. Should be okay, but hopefully nothing too serious for old mate here. And speaking of big return this weekend, Kurtley Beale, one of the greatest of all time of the Australian rugby. He will be returning to play for the Western Force this weekend away in New Zealand against the Blues. So yeah, this is gonna be a tough return, but it's gonna be a good time to see Kurtley back in the starting number 15 jersey as well. So, and there's a potential he might, because Kurtley Beale was actually named in the Joe Schmidt Wallabies squad last year before he was pulled out from an injury. So yeah, he could potentially make a comeback in a Wallabies jersey as well. So we'll have to see how he performed this weekend. And last year he looked really, really mature, really good. Coming into play, playing as assisting, what do you call it, as a second playmaker out of 15 jersey, and he looked really good last year. So look forward for him to put on a bit of a show this weekend. And speaking of the Blues, Mark Talea, 3-week suspension for a spear tackle on the Junkyard Dog. So it is what it is. He's going to be out for 3 of the final 4 regular season of the Super Rugby. Taha Kemena suffered a ACL injury, I believe. Yeah, ACL injury to his left knee, and he's going to be out for the remainder of the Super Rugby season, which means James O'Connor, Rabbit, he will be the starting fly half for the Crusaders going forward now, I guess. It's getting there. It's getting close to the All Blacks. There's some talks for James O'Connor to return to the Wallabies. I think he wants to potentially have a chance on the All Blacks. Yeah, we'll have to see. But I think he has to wait till the end of the year before he's actually qualified for the All Blacks. So I think it's the Wallabies trying to dangle him back, but I think he's really close to that black jersey there. David McKenzie also injured. Had a bit of a hand injury, but he will be okay. He's not going to be playing this weekend, but he will be okay soon enough. Look at the size of that chin. It's like Nathan Cleary out there, mate. My goodness. That is an extraordinary chin, mate. Like, wow. I didn't realize he has such a huge chin. He's related to Nathan Cleary, potentially. If you don't know who Nathan Cleary is, he's a rugby league player. He's like the best rugby league player in Australia right now. And he has like a massive chin. Just huge chin. Let's quickly have a look. Nathan Cleary. Look at the size of that thing. My goodness. My goodness. There. Jesus. Look at the size of those chins. Wow. That's, definitely related somehow, potentially. But anyway, moving on. The RFU has come out with a proposal to remove the so-called Rugby Football Union Council. And they think it's just a council that was from the old days. It's pretty dysfunctional apparently, not really doing what it's supposed to be doing. And they've been saying that they're just, a bunch of 57 old farts from former, just messing around. So there's a vote that's going to come out potentially to get rid of the council. What I do want to note is that, see, this thing, I think this is really nice. This is really cool. How you're having your team walking through the crowd, go into the stadium. Like, they just don't do that here in Australia. Like, this would be really nice to have the Wallabies maybe walking in to the stadium, and maybe they do, but I don't know. I can't remember seeing this when I attended the games. But yeah, just having like a huge crowd. Maybe there wouldn't be such a big crowd if they were doing this. So, but yeah, such a huge crowd turning out to watch the team go into the stadium. I think that's really, really nice. Both the Curry brothers, Tom Curry and Ben Curry, has signed an extension to the Sale Sharks till the end of the 2026 and 2027 season. Both extremely talented. I don't see them, England Rugby, letting them go. The Waratahs has locked down 3 youngsters, Daniel Botha, Ben Grant, and Henry O'Donnell, for another season. And then the Billy Proctor has been locked out by the All Blacks till 2027 Rugby World Cup. He's going to be playing this weekend for the Hurricanes. And finally, the European Champions Cup has decided to allow the referees speaking an open mic at the stadium to give live updates to the fans during the game, which is something that's been going on already, and just more clarification for the viewing experience. And finally, let's quickly have a look at the Super Rugby lineup for the weekend. So we've got Blues versus the Force. Stephen Perifetta actually has been caught up into the fullback for the Blues. Bowden Barrett still at 10. And AJ Lamb has been replaced. Sorry, not AJ Lamb. Talea, Coles Forbes has replaced him. And AJ Lamb's moved down to the win. And it is what it is for the Blues. I think 4-pack probably the big difference for the Blues. The scrums maybe, but for the Western Force, Kurtley Beale back at the fullback, Harry Potter still on the did some magic on the weekend. Ben Donaldson at 10. I think it'd be interesting to see how they work together once again. Kurtley Beale and Ben Donaldson was really good last year, and Donaldson has grown significantly. So with his help with Kurtley Beale, this could be something special in the making. I do think the front rowers might be a little bit weakened. Um, Tom Robertson, Ryan Coxon, yeah, not yeah. I think they might struggle a little bit in the scrum. Good locks from the force, Darcy Swain, Jeremy Williams, but I think the props might be a little bit undergunned there. So next game, Fijian Enduro versus Queensland Reds. Maybe I give the prediction. I think the force might pull. I hope the force pull a special wing here over the Blues. But it is Eden Park. I think Kurtley Beale returning will bring a little bit of a oomph to the West to the Force game, and I think that Force might win this one. I have a cheeky feeling for it. Fijian Enduro versus the Reds in Suva in the heat. Once again, this will be interesting. There's a bit of a change for the Enduro team after last week's loss against the Moana Pacifica. Kemu Valentini has been moved to the 10, and Armstrong Ravola has been moved to the fullback position. So yeah, that's a big change. I do think that once again the scrum will be an interesting thing. So Penny Ravai, Masaki Donge are all very, very informed right now. And I think that if the Endurers can squeeze maybe the scrum a little bit and capitalize on the heat, they might come out with a big win here over the Reds. But the Reds has made some changes as well. Harry McLaren Phillips has been moved to the starting 10 with Tom Liner coming off the bench. And yeah, Joe Campbell retains the number 15 jersey after a good return last week. And yeah, the Reds has loaded up the bench with the props. Alex Hodgman, Jeffrey Tumanga Allen are both going to be coming off the bench. Hurricanes versus the Chiefs. Hurricanes, again, last week, a really good game. Really, really big win last week. Ruben Love did a Kenyan Oholo. Who did they play last week? Was it against the Landers? Anyway, yeah, but the Hurricanes did a really, really good win last week, especially with Naholo on the pummeling through people. I think that Ruben Love's kicking got a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable at 10 position as well. So yeah, Hurricanes definitely showing a bit more form. Chiefs versus this week once again after like the thumping they put out last week. Once again, don't have Damien McKenzie, but George Jacob was really good last week. His goal kicking not quite as good as Damien McKenzie, but in terms of playmaking, I thought it was just fine. Sean Stevenson fielding as the second playmaker last week as well. So don't see much issue there for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to be really, really strong. And once again, they kind of loaded up the bench a little bit with Wallace and TT coming off the bench. Somasoni Taukiahu, I saw both super powerful finishes and to try to finish the game strong in the second half. And I think the Hurricanes might actually, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a tough one for them to handle. They have moved Brad Shield on the bench to try to maybe offset that a little bit. And, Pasilio Tosi has always been good as a finisher for the Hurricanes as well to come off the bench in the front row. Next one, we've got Brumbies versus Waratahs. Len Kitao, I thought he had an injury last week. It looked like he came off, but he's okay, so it's good to see that. Nolo Seo gets the 10 jersey once again. Waratahs, Swat Lee is still at fullback position. Lawson Crichton gets the 10 jersey. Nothing too crazy from the both teams. Daniel Botha gets the start ahead of Tupou. Tupou hasn't really been performing, to be honest. And yeah, the Waratahs, this is going to be a pretty big physical battle up front. You've got Langi Gleeson, Tom Hooper, both really physical, and Rob Valentini are just all big ball runners. And yeah, there'll be some pretty big hits tonight. And, in this game, I think be interesting to see what's going to go down. I think the Brumbies might win this one. I just don't think that the Waratahs game plan is nearly as polished. And with the referee Angus Garner, yeah, it's going to be a pretty clinical referee as well. And I think the Waratahs are a little bit sloppy in some of their executions. Next up, we've got Highlanders versus Moana Pacifica. Highlanders, we've got Ethan de Groot, still at number 1. Moana Pacifica, Adi Savia at 8. Miracle Langi has been really, really good last week. Just again, starting to build that confidence next to Adi Savia, starting to learn a lot of that leadership from Adi, and you can see that a lot last week. Jackson Garden Bishop gets the nod at 10. For the Highlanders, not too much to say about the Highlanders team, to be honest. Tavatava Nawai is still the captain. Yeah, I don't know. The Highlanders still a bit of a struggle streak, to be honest. It's like I said, every week they have really talented players. You know, like Nipkins, they Sam Gilbert as well getting the start this week. It's just you know it's all of these players play at a different, I guess I wouldn't say tempo, but a different intensity. So they don't really click as well as they should. I feel like the synergy, they're like great individual players, but there's a lack of synergy amongst the players. Fla Fakatava has been moved to the bench. Like, these guys are just all really, you know, great, like, fierce individual players. But when it comes to clicking with the players around them, I feel like they're just a different wavelength. Not just Fakatava, but a lot of these players are a different wavelength from one another. And I think that is a problem with Haaland. I think if they get everyone together, they will perform at a much better, higher level. But hey, if anybody can get these guys together, it will be Jamie Joseph. And looking forward for them to put on a good show on the weekend. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm extremely tired. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I've been up all day. And thanks for watching. Have a good one. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the reviews that's coming up for this weekend. Cheers.